is so beautiful. It's one of the simple sonnets of Shakespeare, referring to angels. You see, they are the lords and owners of their faces. If you take faces, the word faces, wajah in Islam, it's about personality and countenance. Their whole being is in submission to Allah. So it's not a big deal. Others, but stewards of their excellence. We are called to what? Ihsan. Allah has called the human beings to spiritual perfection, to ihsan, in every single thing that we do. So, we are the stewards of achieving this excellence. Isn't that phenomenal? Shakespeare was a pretty spiritually awake guy sometimes. The angels, in their one-sidedness, saw only the mischief consequent on the misuse of the emotional nature of man. Perhaps they also, being without emotion, did not understand the whole of Allah's nature, which gives and asks for love. You see, this is another thing that is so beautiful of vicegerency. You see, the angels did not understand love. But we as human beings
It's a privilege.
have this thing called love. And then Allah said the greatest thing is that you can love somebody for His sake. When you start to think about these things, folks, it makes it so much easier to understand how special Allah made us as vicegerents. That we were created to love each other. What did the Prophet Muhammad say? When you love your brother or your sister, you want for your brother or sister what you want for yourself. You will for your brother to have what you have and your sister to have what you have. The Prophet ﷺ said, no greater love can a person have than to love someone for the sake of Allah. So imagine this being that just obeyed Allah, did everything Allah said, and now this being is being created that can either create mischief or they can love. It wasn't a part of their paradigm to understand this. In humility and true devotion to Allah, they remonstrate. They say or plead. We must not imagine the least tinge of jealousy, as they are without emotion. And this is found in the Tafseer of Yusuf Ali. The mystery of love being above them, they are told that they do not know. And they acknowledge in Surah 2 and verse 32 their imperfection of knowledge. The matter is brought home to them in verse 31 and 32, when the actual capacities of men are shown to them. The names of things, according to commentators, means the inner nature and qualities of things with feelings. Can you imagine when the angels were being exposed to the true nature of this being with feelings? The particular qualities and feelings which were outside the nature of angels were put by Allah into the nature of man, enabling him to reach the highest of high or go to the lowest of low. Man thus was able to love and understand love, and thus plan and initiate as becomes the office of vicegerent. The angels acknowledge this. These things they could only know from the outside, but they had faith and belief in the unseen. They knew that Allah saw what others see, what others do not see, and what others wish to conceal. Man has many qualities which are latent, or which he may wish to suppress or conceal to his own detriment. Allah does not run His affairs under a parliamentary system. You see, we as human beings, sometimes we think in terms of the world in which we live. So we think, one man, one vote. So Allah had to give the angels the same thing He gave man. That's how we think. But Allah is the all-knower and the all-seer, so He knows what one dimension can do and what another dimension can do. And He doesn't have the same rules for all the different dimensions. Let's just think outside of the box for a minute. We have hazmat teams that handle toxic gas, right? We have fire departments that handle fire. Does the same team handle both? Not usually. You have a toxic spill, we call hazmat. You have a fire, you call 911, you get the fire department. So you have different specialties that deal with fire versus gas versus water. If you have a flood, you don't call the fire department, do you? You call another kind of rescue service. So all of these dimensions are very special. It is believed that this is a parable teaching man the need for mutual consultation and dialogue. And over and over and over and again in the Quran it says believers consult their affairs by mutual consultation. The word is shura. The Prophet consulted his wives in even matters of the state. Mutual consultation. The Prophet was a messenger of Allah, and all the information he needed in governing the affairs of the world was conveyed to him by means of revelation. Yet the Holy Quran asked him to consult his companions. So even though the Prophet was a perfect man, there was a lesson here to consult. Even to consult different dimensions. And I think that there's a lesson in that for us in the world. Because out of the mouth of babes are the greatest teachers. So we should consult our children sometime. But what we do is we take control over them. What I've learned as a therapist and as a parent is that often if you'll say to your children, what do you feel about that? How do you think we should handle that? That the wisdom from that child is far superior to the wisdom of the adult that's talking. I got some school teachers in here. How many would agree with me? And I know that Wassel has done a lot of conflict regulation and management. It's amazing what you see in children. Yes, brother?
Can you tell us the story about Suleiman and David, about the farm? I guess something had happened with a guy farm.
Well, Suleiman employed jinns. He actually employed jinns. That was one of his gifts from Allah, that he actually employed jinns. So they worked for him. And that shows you that they are, well, I'll leave that there. I don't want to go into that today, brother, with you, but I'll go into it another time, inshallah. But he did employ jinns. Okay? And we're going to talk about jinns some more later. Yes, brother?
Yeah, what happened to Suleiman and the jinns, that proves that the jinns, they don't know the unseen. The proof is that he died for a while, and they couldn't figure out that he died. They were still working, building for him, because they were scared of him. So when he fell down, that's when they found out that he died a long time ago. And that proves that the jinns, they don't know the unseen.
Right. Okay. And there's even more to that story, but I didn't want to deviate because I didn't have all my details with you. So, it is believed that this is a parable, as I said, to teach about mutual consultation. Now, an effective and successful masjid has a majlis ashura. What does that mean? It has a committee that consults. Now, can you be a member of the majlis ashura if you're not knowledgeable? No. So you see, we have to understand that when you are consulted, you have to have the knowledge to be consulted. Otherwise, you may misguide someone. And there's an amazing story that when I had been Muslim, I forgot, how many years had I been Muslim when we went to Rocky Mount, North Carolina? About 10 years.
No less, really.
A little less than 10 years. Anyway, I went to be an imam for the prison system. I was hired in North Carolina. And I went to this community that had a masjid. And I put a poster board up and I said, if you'd like to be a member of Majlis Ashura, we need to establish a committee for running the masjid, please sign up. And we got a bunch of signatures and we had a meeting. When I came to the meeting, there were, I believe, 13 people there. 10 people at the meeting were selling alcohol, pork, pornography, and lotto tickets. So I said to them, I'm really feeling uncomfortable here. I'm a new Muslim, 7, 8 years, whatever it was at the time. And I said, how can you make decisions on behalf of the masjid whenever you're selling alcohol, pork, lotto tickets, and pornography?
And the answer was?
And the answer was that I thought they were going to beat me up. They did not remember that Allah had created them to love. They were not real happy with me. But there were 3 people in the room that were making a halal living. But at the end of the night, they asked me if I would be the chair of this board. And it was a very interesting experience because we have a lot of that in various places. We have people trying to lead who are not living according to Islam. And it's very, very difficult. It creates a big problem for us. The Prophet was a messenger of Allah, and all the information he needed in governing the affairs of the world was conveyed to him by means of revelation. Yet the Holy Quran asked him, as I said, to consult his companions. And over and over and over again we see where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ consulted his companions. Did it mean he didn't know the answer? No. He was grooming them. He even consulted his wives, yes.
This Surah Shura.
Yes, whole chapter in the Holy Quran, Surah Ashura, absolutely. MashaAllah, on mutual consultation. The angels were operating within their dimension and were not aware of the nature and the requirements of divine vicegerency. Then in verse 31, Allah beautifully demonstrated the truth to them in a vivid form when He gave Adam a kind of knowledge for which he alone had been endowed. So Adam was like the first student, alayhi salam. Allah taught Adam the names, properties, and qualities of all the existence, animate and inanimate. Angelic nature is not capable of such awareness. For example, angels can't experience the pain of hunger and thirst, the tumult of passions, the torment from the bite of a scorpion or snake, or the exhilaration from an intoxicant. It's hard for us to imagine a being like that. But if we stop to process that for a moment, it helps us to understand how far we can develop ourselves if we submit to the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah challenged the angels to tell Him what He had taught Adam. All dimensions need knowledge peculiar to them. The angels' humble submission is a lesson for us. Here these angels that only please Allah were humbled. How much more so do we need to be humbled? When we are always struggling. Every single one of us are always struggling with our jihad. Every single one of us are struggling every single day of our lives. Do I do the right thing or do I do the wrong thing? When the cop stops me on I-4, do I do a little flirting? I know it's not Islamic. But if I can get out of this ticket, it sure will help my butt. You know, do I pull my hijab back a little bit? And I'm just teasing my sister. But, you know, and then the guys, we've got our own struggles. When we're driving down I-4 and there's a Victoria's Secret billboard that's up there on the wall, do we lower our gaze or do we say, oh, astaghfirullah? And we get stuck as we're saying astaghfirullah. Al-Qurtubi, as well as other scholars, said that Ayah 230 proves the obligation of appointing a Khalifa, Islamic council, Amir, to pass judgments on matters of disputes between people, to aid the oppressed against the oppressor, to implement Islamic law, and to forbid evil. You see, there was never a need for this before, folks, because the angels were just doing what Allah said. And now He's creating this being that's going to need to be able to deal with disputes. You're going to need a shura to deal with disputes. The virtue of Adam over the angels. Allah stated the virtue of Adam above the angels because he taught Adam, rather than them, the names of everything. After this occurred, they prostrated to him in verse 34. This discussion precedes that event here, only to show the importance of Adam's position and the absence of the angels' knowledge about creating the Khalifa when they ask about him. So Allah informed the angels that He knows what they do not know, and then mentioned this to show them Adam's superiority over them in knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and He taught Adam the names of everything. Ad-Dahak said that Ibn Abbas commented on the ayah, and he taught Adam the names of everything, meaning the names that people use, such as humans, animals, sky, earth, land, sea, horse, donkey, and so forth, including the names of other species. Ibn Abi Hatim and Ibn Jarir reported that Asim bin Hulayb narrated from Sa'id bin Ma'bad that Ibn Abbas was questioned, and he taught Adam all the names of everything. Did Allah teach him the names of the plate and the pot? He said yes, and even the terms for breaking wind. So the terms for passing gas or breaking wind was actually taught to Adam alayhi salam. I don't think he used the word that you just used. No. But he taught him obviously the Arabic word for breaking wind. Now, this takes us to another whole level. Because you see, Adam alayhi salam, when he was being taught by Allah, was taught all without exception. Because remember now, the angels don't break wind. The jinns don't break wind. So they would not have understood this. So these concepts were being taught to them, proving to them, you see, I know that which you do not know. That which you can't understand, what you cannot even imagine. Allah taught Adam the names of everything, their proper names, the names of their characteristics, and what they do, just as Ibn Abbas stated about the term for passing gas. In his Sahih, Al-Bukhari explained this ayat in the book of Tafseer with a report from Anas bin Malik, who said that the Messenger of Allah said, the believers will gather on the day of resurrection and will say, we should seek a means of intercession with our Lord. They will go to Adam alayhi salam and say, oh Adam, you are the father of all mankind. Allah created you with His own hand, ordered the angels to prostrate for you, and taught you the names of everything. Will you not intercede for us with your Lord, so that He relieve us from this gathering place? On that, Adam alayhi salam will reply, I cannot do what you ask. He will have remembered his error and will be embarrassed. Now imagine, Adam had this one error. He was a prophet of Allah. He and his wife had this one error, and he's embarrassed by one error. We have probably a couple of thousand errors every day. Listen, brothers and sisters. So Adam is embarrassed because of his error. We know he was a prophet of Allah. So he says to the people, go to Noah, alayhi salam, for he is the first of Allah's messenger whom Allah sent to the earth, to the people on the earth. They will go to Noah and ask him. He will say, I cannot do what you have asked. He will recall asking Allah what he was not to know, and will also be embarrassed. He will say, go to Khalil ar-Rahman. They will go to Ibrahim, and he will also say, I cannot do what you have asked. He will say, go to Musa, a servant to whom Allah spoke directly and gave the Torah. Musa will say, I cannot do what you have asked. He will remember that he killed a person without justification and will be embarrassed before his Lord. Now remember, folks, all of these people are prophets of Allah who are guaranteed paradise, and they are embarrassed because of perhaps one sin. Go to Isa, Allah's servant and messenger, and his word and the spirit of his. They will go to Isa and he will say, I will not do what you ask. Go to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a servant whose previous and latter errors were forgiven. They will come to me and I will go to Allah and seek his permission, and he will give me his permission. When I gaze at my Lord, I will prostrate myself, and Allah will allow me to remain like that as much as he will. Then I will be addressed, O Muhammad, raise your head. Ask, for you will be given what you ask, and intercede, for your intercession will be accepted. I will raise my head and thank and praise Allah with such praise as he will inspire me. I will intercede and he will grant me a quantity of people that he will admit into paradise. I will go back to him, and when I see my Lord, I will intercede and he will allow me a quantity that he will admit into paradise. I will do that for a third and a fourth time. I will say, there are no more people left in hell except those whom the Quran has incarcerated and have thus acquired eternity in hell. This is so powerful, folks. You see, a lot of people do not understand and do not know that we have intercession in Islam. But the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by the will of Allah, will be given some intercession. I'll get to you in just a minute, brother. I want to finish this thought. We also know that according to the Quran, there are some people that we don't know about. They will also be given permission to make intercession. So we don't know who they are. But imagine that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will make intercession 4 times.
Among those people who memorize the entire Quran and the martyrs.
Yes. Yes, brother.
Sorry, what does intercession mean again? Just forgiveness?
Intercession is forgiveness. We call it shafa'ah. It's that Allah will pray and ask Allah to accept us, to forgive us. Yes.
And also, like, I thought prophets of Allah were able to make, or did they make mistakes before they became prophets? Or were they always prophets?
They made mistakes. Most prophets made at least one mistake. It wasn't a sin, though. It was something that Allah was perhaps, I don't want to say anything wrong. I'm going to be very careful here. They were like Musa alayhi salam killed someone.
His brother, I think.
By mistake.
They didn't have
By
the
mistake.
intention.
Yeah.
By mistake. But he still felt guilty for this.
So, prophets who, they just made mistakes, never did anything intentionally, right?
Yeah, they were redeemed and they were considered perfect.
Okay.
But they acknowledge what the power of this beautiful ahadith is, how they acknowledge their humility. This is the lesson that we need to get out of this, folks. Is that if prophets humble themselves to say, I can't make shafa'at for you. I made a mistake in life. Even if it was a mistake. It wasn't intentional. I didn't mean to kill somebody. How much more so should we be humble? How much more so should we be repentant?
And even Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he didn't kill that person, he just pushed him. Because he was strong.
Right.
He just pushed the guy.
Yes, brother.
The early Christians, Isa alayhi salam was interceding, not the ones of today, correct? The ones of today, they make intercession. But the early Christians, the one at the time of Prophet Isa, like his followers.
Yes, Isa will stand, all the people will stand behind the prophet that led them. And Allahu Alam, it is said, believe that some of those prophets will be able to make shafa'ah for them. But we do know these are authentic hadiths that I'm sharing with you today. Yes?
The question is, you said that the Prophet Adam was revealed all the names in Arabic. Is that correct? Huh? Because
I don't know that it was Arabic. Forgive me. That was a mistake. I made a mistake by saying that. I don't know the language that was revealed to Adam. So thank you for correcting me on that. Thank you. Yeah, that was a slip. Sorry about that. All right. Let's move on here. I'm sorry. Yes, sister. I'm sorry.
Out of the prophets, who was the first one that came down? Was it Adam,
Adam.
or Noah?
Adam alayhi salam was the first prophet. Yes.
And Noah would be the second then?
Noah was the second prophet. Yes.
That is mentioned in Quran.
This hadith was collected by Muslim, An-Nisa, and Ibn Majah. The reason why we mention this hadith here is the prophet's statement. They will go to Adam and say, "O Adam, you are the father of all mankind. And Allah created you with His own hand, ordered the angels to prostrate to you, and taught you the names of everything." This part of the hadith testifies to the fact that Allah taught Adam the names of all creatures. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Then He showed them to the angels," meaning the objects of creation. Abdul Razak narrated that Ma'amar said that Qatada said, Allah paraded the objects before the angels and said, "Tell me the names of these if you are truthful." Allah's statement means, "Tell me the names of what I paraded before you, O angels," who said, "You will place therein those who will make mischief therein and shed blood." You ask, "Are you appointing a Khalifa from us or from other creations?" We praise and glorify you. So you see, they weren't arguing with Allah, they just simply didn't understand. And that helps us to understand why this is an example of how Allah allows us to have consultation. This is another thing beautiful here, is that there's no question that is embarrassing. There's no stupid question in Islam. There's no question that should not be asked. And that's one of the beauties of our religion. And forgive me, some people don't like that choice of word, but there's no ignorant question. Maybe that's perhaps a better word.
I used to be yelled at a lot for asking stupid questions like that.
I'm sorry about that. You hear that?
So that's why for a long time I never asked questions.
What Ibrahim is saying is that he used to be yelled at and asked because he would ask questions that whoever he was asking them felt they were stupid questions. How can we encourage children to grow if we tell them their questions are stupid? So we must encourage people to ask questions. Alhamdulillah. Therefore Allah said, "If you say the truth, that if I appoint a non-angel Khalifa on the earth, he and his offspring will disobey me, commit mischief and shed blood. But if I designate you the Khalifas, you will obey me, follow my command and honor and glorify me. However, since you do not know the names of the objects I paraded before you, then you have even less knowledge of what will occur on the earth that does not yet exist." So you see, they could not understand this dimension. They could not understand the dimension of merchant. I'm trying to think of the word for when you trade. For trade, commerce is the word I'm looking for. Just imagine that you lived in a world where you did everything for Allah. You didn't eat, you didn't sleep, you didn't drink, you didn't work. People are saying, "I like it." It's a whole different concept here. Yes, brother?
It's just that angels can't understand us, right? Do we understand more them more than they understand us?
Well, we understand of them what Allah has given us of them. I don't know who understands who more. Allahu A'lam. I can't answer that question because I don't have any proof. The angel said, "Glory is to you. We have no knowledge except what you have taught us. Verily it is you, the knower, the wise." Here the angels are praising Allah's holiness and perfection above every kind of deficiency, affirming that no creature could ever acquire any part of Allah's knowledge except by His permission. nor can anyone know anything except what Allah teaches them. This is why they said, glory is to you. We have no knowledge except what you have taught us. Verily you are the knower, the wise, meaning Allah is knowledgeable of everything. You see, this is another beautiful principle, folks, because when we talk about a paradigm that says that there's a human being that's equal to God, it doesn't make any sense, because we know that Allah only is omniscient, the all-knower. There is no human being on this earth that has ever existed that can tell you the number of hairs in every single one of this person in this room's head. As a matter of fact, just calculating it, every time you brush your hair, how many fall out?
6 on average.
You know, so this is only Allah. So when people say that Jesus is God, how can it be? Can Jesus create anything? Can Jesus say be and something happens? Can Jesus just will something? Jesus said, not my will, but thy will be done. Yes, brother.
Can you tell them the story about the fig tree that happened about Jesus in the Bible?
Not today. I want to stay on target here. I try to stay within my outline. Because if I jump around, and I'm already jumping around today, because there are things that I feel that you need to know. And I want to get to some more stuff that I think is applicable to these particular verses, if you'll bear with me. Verse 33, he said, O Adam, inform them, tell them of their names. And when he had informed them of their names, he said, did I not tell you that I know the unseen, the ghaib, of the heavens and the earth, and I know what you reveal and what you have concealed? Imam al-Ashari purports that this verse indicates that Allah is the creator of language and not man. Adam a.s. became the teacher to the angels. This is another indication of his superiority over them. Now, in the adabs of a Muslim, for example, and this is something that I'm trying to discover the roots of where this came from. But in the adabs of being a Muslim, the teacher, your teacher Islamically, is given tremendous respect. For example, when I was sitting at the feet of Sheikh Taha Jabir al-Alwani, who is now teaching at Al-Azhar, and taught at Al-Azhar before he taught me. He is an alim, a well-known alim. When he said to me in his class, don't you ever come back to this room with the jalabiyah on and a turban on your head. When he first said it to me, I, as an American, had a jihad going on inside of me, because I couldn't understand why he would say it to me, but he didn't say it to my African American brother who was wearing a jalabiyah. He said, you're an American, and if you want to be an effective da'i in this country, you need to be an American. He said, Abu Huraira did not adopt the customs of another land. And it was a great gift to me. So I said to him, now, I'm not arguing with you, Sheikh, can you help me understand? Because in the adabs of a student, you have to respect your teacher. You have to be very humble before your teacher. And that's something that we have not learned Islamically. We don't respect our imams. We don't respect our teachers. So you go to conferences and people stand up and they argue with the sheikhs, and they ask what I call stump the sheikh questions. They want to show off. They want to be arrogant. And most of you who've ever been to a conference have met one of these kind of people. They stand up and they don't want to they're not sincere with their question. They want to show off. And this is makruh. It's not acceptable. Because the one who has knowledge Allah asks us in the question, is he who knows equal to he who doesn't know? Now, I'm a kindergarten teacher. That's what I feel like. I have very little knowledge. But in Islam, there are whole schools, there are whole adabs, there are whole lessons on how you're supposed to interact with your teacher with respect and dignity. Verse 30 tells us that a vicegerent was appointed to keep order on the earth and to promulgate divine laws. From Allah we learn the basic principles for the governance of men on earth. Although the ultimate sovereignty in the universe belongs to Allah, and I gave you 3 different verses to look up here, He in His wisdom appointed us to maintain spiritual and temporal order. I could have gone into a whole lesson today about the Sharia, and I would love to have, but it would be too much of a deviation. But just a few words about that. The anti-Sharia laws that are going on in America are part of the umbrella of Islamophobia. Because you see, to be an anti-Sharia person is no different than saying to a Christian you can't have the laws of Moses, or to say to a Jew you can't have the laws of the Old Testament. And this is why everybody should be voting against this anti-Sharia bill. These laws that are right now trying to discriminate among people of faith. It's very important, folks, that we involve ourselves with this.